So the first step, got nice pliable dough, really good texture, nice and smooth. The first step is to just kind of flatten it out. And you've got multiple settings on this. There's a dial. And the first setting on a KitchenAid is 1. This is the laminating setting. Alright? Each consecutive setting after that, it makes a big jump. As you turn it, it makes the rollers get closer together. There's a big jump between 1 and 2. That's the first sheeting setting. And sheeting means that you're actually rolling the dough out. You're flattening it out, right? So the first one is kind of still a kneading setting. The first thing we're going to do is turn it on slow at first. As you get more comfortable, you can turn it up and make it go faster. It's actually a little easier to handle the dough when it's running faster rather than slower. So the first thing is we're just going to kind of give it the right shape. Alright? And now what we're going to do is laminate the dough. So laminating means building layers. Alright? So we're going to fold it like a book and then take the axis of the book and point it down. And what this does is build structure in your pasta. Makes it more handleable, makes it stronger. Okay? I usually do this on another fold. I usually do this about 3-4 times. It's sufficient. If I were adding herbs, this is the point where I put herbs on here, fold them inside the book, and press them through. And you get a nice distribution. Okay? This also starts to give it the shape that you want. That was 4 times. Now, if the dough starts feeling a little sticky, it's okay to brush it in flour. You can always brush it off later. Okay? You don't want the dough to get sticky. If it starts to get too wet, what happens is it'll catch on the edge and you'll get kind of rippling effect on the side of the pasta. And that's because it's too moist. Alright? So now I've gone through 4 times and laminated. I'm going to start sheeting. Okay, the technique for this is kind of critical. You want to go in vertically, but you immediately want to turn the dough horizontal. Alright? And catch it horizontally. This is less critical in the early stages when the dough is long, but when it starts to get really long, if you put it in vertically and let it hang, the weight of it is going to pull it down and stretch it and make the noodles all too thin and out of shape. Alright? So at this point, once through on the first step. Just once. So we did 2, now we're going to do 3. Now the number of settings that you go through depends on the kind of pasta that you're making. So Peter's making the trinette, right? The trinette, which is a fairly dense pasta. It should be kind of like a linguine. Okay? That's usually a setting of around maybe 6, 7 on a KitchenAid. 5, 6, we'll look and see. Right? The only time that you're going to go up to the really thin settings, 8, 9, at that point you would be able to see through a little bit. You can see your hand through. That's ideal for stuffed pasta, like ravioli or tortellini. The reason being it's more pliable, but most importantly is when you're folding that pasta over, you're effectively doubling it. Right? So if you start with a really thick pasta and then double it over, it's not going to cook evenly. It's going to be too chewy. It's going to be too dense to eat. So you want it very, very thin. So I kind of lost track. This is 3. I might be doing that again. Just try catch and flip it horizontally. You can see why this machine is so wonderful. Because if you're cranking, it's virtually impossible to do it. But using a manual machine is a two-person job. It really is. That's what small children do. Pretty pasta. If at some point it gets too long to handle, cut it in half. 5. Let's see what we get at 5. You have to remember when you cook it, it's going to swell up. So it's not going to stay the thickness that it is when it's raw. So this is already pretty fairly thin, but I think we'll go at least 1 more. Let's go to 6 and see what we get. Usually around 5 or 6 is when it really starts to thin out. And your pasta will start getting really long. let it dry. Alright? So this usually works out if you're working with a pound of dough. By the time you get through the fourth ball, the first one is ready to cut. You're ready to work with again. Right now, if you feel it, you can kind of feel the moisture in it.
Yeah.
It's a little sticky. And if you try to cut this now and hold it in the nest, it would stick all on itself. Alright? So, first thing we want to do is put a dusting of flour down. If you put the pasta directly on, go for it. Put half that bowl on there. The more flour, the better. If there's a lot of moisture in the air, it will stick to that metal. It's a doozy to get it off. You don't want to have to go there. Okay? So obviously this doesn't fit. So what can we do? We're not going to eat noodles this long, hopefully. So we'll go ahead and cut it in half about the length, maximum length that you want it to. Right? Pack them on the pan. You do not want them to touch or overlap. The residual moisture will cause it to get sticky. So a single layer. But you don't want to end up with 10 pans, spreading these out. So you spray, put a little bit more flour on there. Alright, flour on the towel, put the towel on there. And then you've got a whole new layer. Okay? Right, so next time, flour on the towel, another layer of pasta. Right? Without thinking here. So, just remember the order that you go in, work through all 4 balls, and then when it's time to start cutting, you start back at the beginning with the first one that you did. And we'll put that out and we'll cut into the genetic. Okay? So,